So you've got it drawn out, and now the real fun begins, I think. Let's take a look at getting started on this. So here's my bowl of fruit. I drew that out, and I didn't show every single last detail of what I'm going to paint. A lot of those subtle changes in color, I'll kind of get to those as I get into the actual painting. But when you start, remember what you need, okay? You need your brush, you need your half cup of water, and you need your paint set, okay? And then you need your nicely drawn out still life objects, whatever those are, fruit, flowers, potted plant, cups, any inanimate objects that you find around the house. A good way to start, I think, is to begin with maybe some sort of watercolor wash in the background, like we showed you in last week's videos on wet and dry techniques. I want to just start by getting my background a little bit wet. Now, I'm not going to carry this all the way up the paper, just what's in view here. I want you guys to be able to see how I do this. So I'm going to wet my paper. Off in the background is where we typically see more faded colors, more of those watery, wet colors. So by laying down this water, I'm not getting color that's going to be really dry and full color for the background. That's not the focus, obviously, of the still life. We want the main focus to be on the fruits in the bowl, in this case, in the foreground. And so I am a little careful about going along the edge of my drawing, as you can see here. And I can see where that edge is on the fruit and the edge of the bowl. Now you could carry this down into the foreground here. You might, like in the practice we did, draw a line for the table in the background so that you can see that the fruits are on the table, or you could do like what I'm leaning towards doing right now, and that is going to be define those areas around the bowl of fruit using the color. So I've almost got this all wet, and let's do some wet on wet background. Now for me, I want to just do kind of a wash of color. So this is kind of nice. You can be a little bit more abstract here, and I'm leaving it entirely up to you. But here I'm going to start with some blue. And remember, with wet color, we don't want to mix the color a lot. We just want to get some water into that oval of color. So we can mix colors in our tray or on a paper, some sort of plate that you find around the house. But I just want to make sure it's really watery. And so I'm just going to kind of lay it down like that. And you can, in this video, you can really see how carefully I'm putting the color on, because you can't even really see full color. And it doesn't have to be everywhere. Like I said, it can be kind of more of an abstract wash. It doesn't have to be representative of what's actually there. If you wanted to do a color in the background that isn't actually what you see when you look at your actual objects, that's fine. In fact, that's what I'm doing. Where my colors are arranged, where my fruit is arranged, I'm not worried about what is actually there for the color. I do want to kind of mix in some other colors, though. We don't want to just go straight out of the tray all the time. So I'm going to mix, I'll bring this down a little bit. I'm going to mix some purple in, some violet in with my blue. So just a little bit. And then more water. And then that variation in color is really nice too. So if you're unsure of like, ooh, how's this going to look? Try a corner. You know, you can like, is this too much color? And just go off in the corner and you can kind of test it and before you commit to putting it on your paper. So I like that little bit of violet in my blue violet. And I can use that a little bit right down here on the bottom edge, and it almost serves as a little bit of a shadow. And I can always add more water. It's a matter of adding and subtracting. And now with this blue violet on the paper, now I can kind of go back and add more water. Not more paint, just add some more water there. go back and get some more of my violet and really try and come to some conclusions about the background, okay? So doesn't have to be the whole thing. You can decide for yourself how detailed you want that background to be. And the neat thing about watercolors is you can kind of change your mind and go back. I could come back here tomorrow and get some water on this color, and it would, to some extent, reactivate that color. So that's kind of the unique thing about watercolors, is the ability to go back and change things. With regular painting, you really can't do that as much. So there's that background for me, a wet on wet background. Okay. Now remember, I had a clear see-through dish here, and so it's creating kind of, when I look at it, like kind of some silvery grayish areas, and I don't have that color. I don't have silver or gray or gold. We just have these 8 colors that we're working with. But what I can do, and you guys might come across this too, is I can make a nice watery gray with just a dot of black. So look at this. I just put a little bit of black right here, and now just water. And I can really, careful with black. It's the most powerful color. All right, but now watch what I can do with that. Now this is going to be wet on dry. So I can just lay in some of this gray, and I won't do it everywhere, but you don't want the whole thing to be that color, but just in certain areas. Look at that, even more water, and that looks nice. A little bit more of that gray over here. So we're limited in our colors that we have access to, most of us. And so you got to kind of adapt. But this is a great way to create some of those neutral colors. And I like how this is turning out. And notice how I don't feel the need to color the whole thing. And I do want to kind of get the rim of the bowl here, and then I'll just spread out this. And remember your light direction. If you've got light, a light source, a lamp of some sort, and it is really creating some shadows, actually that's nice. If you can do that, I recommend it, because part of the fun of creating a still life is that illusion of, it's not just a circle, it's actually a 3-dimensional object that you've given light and shadow to. And I'll get into that when I get into the different pieces of fruit in the bowl. But there's how I would do your background.